Howdy ho, people. Anybody's there? There's a couple people here. My iPad is not cooperating. There we go. Kathy and Laurie. Yes, you do see lots of goodies here. That plaster stuff is hard. You make it look easy. Kathy, it's really messy. And it just takes a little bit of working with it to figure it out, but it's not that bad. Is it 1 o'clock yet? Almost. Hi, Caroline and Carolyn. You're both here. Excellent. Okay, I think we got another minute or so, so I'm hanging loose. Barbara. So I'm actually looking at the iPad right now where I can see things. Then I get involved in stuff and I totally forget to do that. So I'm talking to you now because I won't know later. Okay. It is 1 o'clock, so let's get started and see, does that make it better? Checking the lights here. Okay, I went ahead and finished the plaster, and I decided the things that I was going to put in my little compartments here. It was a royal pain in the butt, I have to say that. And trying to fit stuff in there, I really didn't anticipate it being that big of a pain when I started, but this will be really good because I've got so many different textures that I can use this as a resource. I can look on here and see exactly what things look like with gesso and paint, and that will hopefully make some shortcuts for me in the future. So what do we do next? How do we adhere these? Down here, this is that that stuff, the packing stuff. I put these on with just glue. I use a glue that I really love is Weld Bond. But I had forgotten that I had already watered some down, so I didn't have any full strength, which I prefer for putting on stuff like this. And so this is a combination of just Weld Bond and Elmer's glue and some water to make it good in there. So these are already adhered. There's alternate ways of adhering. So these thin things, those are going to be easy with glue, but what do you do, when you don't have glue? Well, I'm not going to glue all of these down, but let's just do a few. So this is tissue paper, so I'm just going to use that glue to actually create some texture with that paper. I do love tissue paper, and I'm glad I grabbed some that wasn't the bleeding kind. I have a whole drawer of that over there. That would be a mess. Okay. So those of you who worked with tissue paper before, you know what, it makes some awesome textures. Let's try it with paper towel. Maybe a little different because it's already been painted on, so it may show or cause a little bit in the difference in the texture, which is fine. And when you're doing this, make sure you brush up close to your plaster, because not only are you gluing your elements on here, you are also helping to keep this plaster on the canvas. Okay. I'm going to continue going with the glue real quick here. I pulled out some of those things yesterday that I chose, the stuff from the kitchen. So what did I have here? Celery seed and dill seed, orange peel, sesame seed, cat litter, again, unused, some beads, and some rocks. So I'm going to put them in these little bitty places right here. And I'll save like the rocks and the beads for over here. So let's see. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll go back over it with another coat of glue just to make sure that it's adhered in there. So there's that. Same with this. This is sesame seeds. These, even though these are organic, they should be just fine as long as they are completely sealed with some kind of medium, whatever medium you're choosing to use. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. And again, I'll go over all of this. Now, the rocks would really be the only thing that I would worry about sticking with the glue. But I'm going to try it, and I'll show you. There's another option. Making sure it's pretty thick. Okay, I was going to put the rocks in the middle. I didn't do that. Okay. Well, let's just see here. Pick some smaller ones. Okay, so there's all the stuff. So what do you do if glue is probably not going to be an option? If you don't think that's going to adhere things correctly. And make sure you put your brush in water, because the stuff dries on it, it's going to be a mess. So, like these items here, this heavy stuff. Well, I don't use regular molding paste or modeling paste very often, the heavier kind. It just takes longer to dry, but I have lots of little jars of it. It makes it easier, it doesn't dry out as bad that way. So, get some of that if you have it, or light molding paste if you have that, whatever, and just spread it. And then just press down. Now that's going to take a little while to dry. Let me see, there we go. And again, this molding paste is also acting as an adherent to that, to the plaster. Okay, this is a booger, all right? The rest is going to be easy, but this and the Tyvek are going to be the more challenging to put on, so I'm sure we'll put them both on with the heavy molding paste just to make sure that they stay. And I'm putting this on pretty thickly because I want it to smoosh up in between the bottom little pieces of this. Okay, let's see if that does it. Okay. I'm even doing this because it's not gonna hurt the textures. We're gonna still be able to see the textures, but that's getting it down in there. Okay, and so it's like the top one layer isn't connecting so much, but the bottom layer is. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like when we're done. these things have to happen before you can paint, right? So when you're finished, when they're dry, turning it back again, these are dry. So I'm going to go over it with gesso, lightly. The gesso just makes it easier for the paint, right? Makes it easier for the paint to adhere onto your objects. You don't want to drown it in gesso, just a light coat. Just to make it easier for our paint to grip. And this really doesn't need it. I want to get it on those gold sides here because they're showing up. But this is a light molding paste in here, so it's going to be very accepting of the paint no matter what. Okay. Alrighty. So really, that is all we can do on this today. So all you're going to have to do is glue everything down using one method or another. You might even consider hot glue on something that's not going to melt. If you've got hot glue around, that would work too. Glue everything down, it has to dry. You might want to leave it overnight to let it dry. And then when it comes back, or when you get back to it the next day, then add your gesso to the top. So I'm going to show you a technique I use for creating textured foil paper. I absolutely love this. I don't know, I'm putting that up there so you can see it. Textures on that. This one, I probably still want to add some more layers of paint to that, but we'll see. Okay, so how do we do that? I use this is a heavy restaurant grade foil. Or I think you can, at the grocery store, you can probably get heavy foil, and it works. This works best because it's so heavy, it really holds the textures in there. Then you're gonna gather your texture. Some different things that you can try. If you have texture plates, like these, or clear ones, whatever, this works great. These are also texture plates. These are meant, I think, more for use with clay, but they work fantastic for this. You might want a rolling pin to help get that foil right in there, especially on these texture plates. On some of the things that I'm going to show you, I use my fingers, and I find it just does better with my fingers than anything else. So, let's see. Okay, this one right here, you can see it's got 3 different textures on it. And what I used for that was this center one here. Remember this cool stuff I showed you yesterday? I just put it down on there and I just pressed in with my finger. And this is another reason you want that heavy duty foil, because if you do that with just a normal foil, your finger's gonna go right through it because it's just not very sturdy. But this stuff can withstand that pressure, and I rubbed it. Then I used this, one of my favorite texturing things. This is the stuff you put under rugs to keep them from sliding. I've got a bunch of it and I just cut them in pieces and use them, get it in different sizes. And again, I just put it down here and I used my finger to create the ridges there. And you can use either side of this. And this last one was, what did I use? I think I used this Tyvek. It really didn't do a whole lot, but that's okay. It's still a texture on there, even when I smooth it out, so it's all right. Here's another. Okay. This, see this right here? That is part of that Brillo pad that I cut and opened up, and it made just the cool, it looks like an ear of corn. It's way cool. And this, I think I had it this way. I put it, this is one of those things I pulled off an old canvas that I hated. So I just used that. I thought, okay, that's got some great texture on it, and I put that over it. It will show up more when it's painted. Let's see. So let's just look at this, some examples. You're basically embossing on the foil. If it's not perfect, who cares? Again, you could probably, if you don't have a rolling pin, because not everybody does, you can use your fingers. This, just like if you were, about to pull a print on, you use jelly plate printing. You can go over the print paper with your fingers. This gives you a little more control. Again, you got both sides, but usually the front's easier or nicer to go with. Let's see. Let's try this. And there's no reason why you can't, like I'm doing right here, have several textures on the same piece of foil, or you can cut it up, or whatever. Let's see. How about this lace? I don't think it matters which side of the foil. Sometimes I just get a little OCD and I want shiny side up. Okay, this is kind of cool. Okay, thanks on it. What's on it? So that worked. How about this is what is this called? It has glue on it already here. Burlap, thank you. I lost my word. It's hell getting old. So put the burlap under there. Both of them have been used extensively. So, makes it a little easier to get a texture on it when the burlap is stiff. Okay, this one was kind of interesting. So I mean, it didn't get like a really great texture. This one I really like. So now I know. So next time I'll get a bigger piece of this to use as a texture. Textures are, I mean, you can use texture from anything. What about this guy here? I haven't tried this yet, so I really don't know. Okay, that was not successful. So not to worry with that. It needs to be stiff. I just wanted you to see this because this is just so cool. And you can put them on top of each other. I just love that. That's my favorite so far. It looks like honeycombs. So what do you do after you've gotten the textures in there? Well, the next step is to paint. These are my 4 favorite colors that I like to use. Cobalt turquoise, quinacridone nickel azo gold, Prussian blue, quin magenta. I love those colors, so I use them a lot. So I'm going to gather my pieces that I have textured already. And I'm just going to, as soon as I find my brush, I'm going to add paint. I would start with the lighter colors first. So let's just go with this cobalt turquoise. Oh, and by the way, here we go. Grab these for you. These are the 2 cards I made using my 4 favorite colors. So this way I can tell what it is, what the color is that I'm about to use. So I've got all these options that I can do just with those 4 colors. And I'm sure a ton more, but these are just 2 cards that I've got done already. So we're just gonna go with, what the heck, let's see, let's just go with this one first. Just gonna paint it. I normally use a bigger brush, but I don't have one on the table with me at the moment, so we're suffering through this. I normally keep, I have a whole bin full of this stuff because I love it. I put it in mixed media pieces. I use it in collage. I love it. It's a shiny thing. And we all know that I'm addicted to shiny, so. Okay. So let's see, I think, oh. This is one that I did that I would like to add more to. So let's see, which one shall I do? Let's try the Prussian blue on this just to see what happens. Not a great brush, but it'll do for the moment. Okay. Ooh. When you put that dark on there, just look how that starts to pop. Now, probably not going to want to leave it like that, so I can get a wet wipe or a paper towel or whatever and wipe. It stays in those cracks and crevices there, and that's beautiful. I really like that. That turned out really nicely. So once you're finished, there's one more step to this that you need to do. And what did I do with my, hold on a second. This isn't it, but I wanted my gloss gel, but I didn't want to spend an hour looking for it over there. This gets a bit crazy in this studio. Okay, so another brush. You got to seal it. It'll rub off really easily if you don't seal it. So I'm using, in this case, I'm just using a little bit of gloss varnish to go over there. And this seals it. It'll help it keep from coming off, and it also just makes it pop, brings that color out. So you can do that with your soft gel gloss. I guess you could probably do it with the matte too if you wanted to, but I would suggest you do the gloss on there first, and then if you want to tone it down, then add the matte. Okay, so that's how I do the foil. Very, very easy. So many found textures that you can do rubbings on, or take it outside, leaves, anything. You can do anything with this. Hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow we will be, hopefully you're gessoed, so tomorrow maybe we can start some of the paint. So I will see you then. Stay home, stay safe, keep creating. Bye.